I'm good. Let's do it.
All right, all right. Thank you for chatting with parents.com and Kindred. It's a pleasure to speak with you today.
My pleasure. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Thank you so much for your time again, okay?
hmm
All right, so my first question is your family album remains true to your brand and it's soulful. In what ways do your children inspire you musically?
Well, everything in this album is inspired by the messages that we try to share with our kids to inspire them, to motivate them, to comfort them, to help them go to sleep, all of those things. When I started the album, I just sat and wrote down a bunch of ideas based on the messages we like to share with them and really built the songs around that.
Very nice, very nice. Now, I love many songs on the album, but my favorite song is Great Great Day because it's inspirational, it's affirmational. Do you do affirmations with your children as a parenting lifestyle?
Well, I love that song too. It's one of the Fisher Price classics that we covered. And it really is about, you know, even when you're going through tough times, like resolving that you're going to be optimistic about what's to come ahead.
Yes,
And I think adults could use that message too.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
Everything we do infuses into their life, right?
Mhm.
My next question is, can you speak to the power of exposing children to music education and diverse types of music at a young age?
Oh yeah, well, I don't know life without music, and my parents were very ready to share music with us all the time. I grew up in the church, so my
Nice.
mother was directing the choir. My grandmother was the church organist, so I grew up around a lot of music. I was going to choir rehearsal all the time. I started taking piano lessons when I was 4 years old, and so music education has been a huge part of my life story. And even if you're not going to be a professional musician, I really think arts education and music education just make you a better person, more well-rounded, more empathetic, more connected to the rest of the world. And I think it's important for parents to be intentional about exposing kids to art, to music, and it's important that our school systems foster that too, where we put funding into music education and arts education because it makes everyone better when we're able to do that.
Very nice, very nice. Now, you're a family man and you found a beautiful way to integrate your family into this business, the music business. Can you speak to, in the context of family and who you are in the world? You always have your children, your social media is so beautiful, and they're with you often too. Can you speak to the fallacy of the absent Black father and why this narrative is dangerous?
Well, I grew up with my father as a single father for a part of my adolescence. My parents got divorced, and we ended up living with my dad for most of my teenage years, and I'm very uh, I'm very blessed to have had not only a a very present Black father, but also somebody who was loving, showed me like a really admirable form of masculinity, and just taught us how to be good men. He raised three boys and one girl, and he really taught us boys how to be really good men. And I really think that part of the myth of the absent Black father is in the statistics that there are a lot of unmarried Black mothers. But I know from personal experience that even when the father isn't married to the mother, that doesn't mean that the father isn't very present and very involved in their child's life. And if you look further into the statistics, it shows that Black fathers actually are quite present and very involved in their kids' upbringing, even if they're not married to the mother.
Very nice, very nice. I appreciate that. Now, your father, in a recent episode of Raising Fame, spoke about how when he was cultivating you and your siblings, that instilling in you all character development and good character was equally as important as everything else. In what ways are you preparing your children to be empathetic human beings? They have access to privilege and resources, but in what way, even though they're young, are you keeping them grounded?
Yes, I really think what my father talked about in that episode was really important, teaching us what it means to be a person of character, to be trustworthy, to be persistent, to be determined, to be kind, to be generous, to be loyal, all those things. I think all of those traits are things we want to instill in our kids too. And I'm glad my parents were intentional about doing that with us.
Very nice, very nice. Now, what's one takeaway that you would like for parents and kids to gain from this album?
Well, I hope it inspires them and makes them love music even more, um, gives them something to bond together with, and um, and then hopefully it gets them to go to sleep on the second half. First half of the album is more fun and kind of daytime, and then the second half is more when it's time to calm down and go to sleep. So hopefully it does all the things that it's meant to do.
It will, it will. It sounds so good. And it is very soothing. I have one last question. For the parents who have teens who play piano or guitar or any other musical instrument, and they're thinking about, sometimes teens, they go through a phase where they don't want to practice their instruments or they don't want to
Uh,
play. What would you say to any teen, tween, or even kid who's thinking about quitting playing their musical instrument? Just like real life. How's it been a benefit?
It's funny because I always meet people who are like, man, I quit playing when I was 12 and I regret it so much now. And, I think you just got to push through even during those times when you don't feel like practicing. Um, but also there are times when everything's not for everybody, you got to find what your passion is. And at some point you can start to focus on your passion. I think early on, it's probably a good strategy to try a bunch of different things. But at some point, you start to figure out what you really love and what you're really good at, and you can focus on that. So if that's not music for some people, then that's fine. They can focus on something else. But there needs to be something that you pour your passion and energy into, something that you try to get really good at. Malcolm Gladwell talks about the 10,000 hours that you spend on something. You
Yeah,
become, you can become a genius at it or something like that. And I think that's true with music. But if music is not that thing that you want to devote all that energy and time to, then figure out what that thing is for you.
very nice, very nice.